We are recording.
It is 2 o'clock. I think we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you everyone for attending on short notice. We have been trying to put this together and really only got the green light for this yesterday. So really just try to get it out to all of you as soon as possible. We know this is very relevant with the way that we need to run open houses now, and even with the new shelter in place that's coming out. So for those that don't know, my name is Brian McFadden. I'm the branch manager for the downtown San Mateo Coldwell Banker office. And it is my privilege to introduce our presenters today, two agents of mine from the Churko Group, Ben Churko and Daniel Choi, who's going to teach you how to hold a successful virtual open house. And we're hoping that this will be a first of in a series of these kind of trainings. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ben and Daniel. Go ahead, guys.
Hey, Brian, thanks so much. Can everyone see the slide? I just want to make sure the presentation's up.
Yeah, it's up, Ben. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So we're going to be talking about how to hold a successful virtual open house, mainly using Facebook. Other ways to do it would be Instagram, Teams, and Zoom. So we'll touch on those, but mainly we're going to talk about Facebook Live and how to use that to do virtual open houses. So this is me. I'm Ben Churko, and one of my partners, Daniel Choi. We've been kind of tag teaming these virtual open houses with listing of ours over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We're both agents with the Coldwell Banker office in San Mateo, as Brian mentioned. And just as a note, we had done 0 virtual open houses prior to April of this year. So this is very new to us. So this will really be a good kind of, learning experience for everyone, just to kind of see our mistakes, because we made a lot of them, and just the things that we've learned and things you can do. So Daniel, do you have anything to add? You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Daniel. Let me turn on my camera. Hope everybody's doing well. But yeah, just like Ben mentioned, once we had to pivot, we, it was all trial and error in a sense. And I think I want to remind everybody just not to worry about making mistakes. It's just part of being on a live video, but the more important part is to be doing it and giving people access and exposure to your listings. And I think that's the more important part.
So that takes us into what is Facebook Live. So Facebook Live is just a type of Facebook post. A lot of you may be familiar, some of you may not. It's essentially a streaming video service through the Facebook platform. And again, we'll talk about in more depth how you actually do it. But it's really that simple. You just go in to publish and it's about 4 clicks and then you're shooting live. So it's really very simple once you kind of know how to do it. There are some hiccups along the way, but we'll kind of talk about those a little bit. So just the very basics of Facebook Live. It's generally easier to do on your cell phone or your iPad, just because of the dual camera capability, being able to flip your camera around and show the home. We've had clients and agents use laptops. It's just a little more difficult unless you have dual cameras, which most don't. So really it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, as I said. So we have here number 1. This is my phone this morning on our Churko Group homepage here. And you can see here I circled publish, because that's really the first step, is just hitting publish. And then it takes you to this second screen here. And you can see it says write something, but underneath that is where it is the different options, and you can choose Facebook Live. So once you hit Facebook Live, you come to this third screen and you'll see yourself. There's a few things to note in this third screen here. Make sure that it's set to public up here, because if it's set to private or friends only, then it won't broadcast beyond just your friend group. And it's really important for exposure and just for yourself, if you're going to be doing this, for it to really go out to as many people as possible. The next thing here, you can add a description. We usually just say, 1201 South Claremont, virtual open house with the website. It's very simple to do. So you just type it in there and put in the description, and that will be the header of the video. And then literally you just hit start live video, and that will start the recording. It's a little scary at first. And I think one of the tricky things is that it's really hard to do a dry run or test Facebook Live, because it does go live instantly and stream out to all your friends and out to the Facebook community. So it's something that's a little more tricky to practice per se. And that's why it's just important that you kind of go through some of the steps we'll talk about later, and then just kind of prepare yourself ahead of time, because again, it's harder to do a dry run. And then the key to Facebook Live is really just do it. You know, me and Daniel can attest, it's been pretty ugly, a few of our videos, but it's really just getting out there and doing it. That's the only way you're going to get comfortable with it. You know, the first few times will be difficult, but Tim Smith, who's a big agent down in Newport Beach, I was listening to a webinar of his about social media, and his thing was, you know, viewers really do appreciate authenticity. It's not all about having the perfect setting and the perfect dialogue, and it's really just doing it. Because personally, I spent the last 5+ years knowing this was a great thing to do and just never doing it because it's scary. And I've just been really happy this, you know, shelter in place has come about, because it's really forced me personally outside of my comfort zone. I think Daniel as well. Daniel can speak to that. I mean, we just didn't really do things like this before. And, you know, I think it's really valuable, important, not only to publicize your listings, but to build your own brand. I mean, it doesn't have to be a listing for Facebook Live. You can sit there and do an interview about, for example, today is an amazing day in real estate, the new shelter in place, where we can see occupied homes, you know, is viewed as a very positive thing in the real estate community. So you could talk about that for a minute or two. You know, the second time I did a Facebook Live, I shot the entire video sideways. It was 15 minutes. It was a house in San Mateo on Claremont and Sunny Bray that I love. And, you know, it was just really disappointing because I sold them the house about 7 years ago. And I just really love that house. It's great neighbors. We spent a ton of money getting it ready. The sellers let us do whatever we wanted to do. So it was kind of sad that it ended up being sideways. And we'll talk about why that was a little later on. But again, just talking about getting out there and doing it, you're going to mess up and it's going to be difficult. But until you do it a few times, you'll kind of get the, you know, the basics of it. And then again, realistic expectations. You know, you'll likely only have 2, 5, 10 people in the first time you do it. That's just, unless you advertise it, you know, it's just difficult. People aren't always looking at it. You have limited exposure. If you're doing on a business page where only 100 people have liked it, we're not all like Tim Smith in Newport Beach that have millions or hundreds of thousands of followers. So again, we'll talk about why that's not really a big deal, how many people watch it later on as well. So how to pre-market your Facebook Live, getting back to kind of getting an audience for it. You can set up a Facebook Live video by creating a scheduled live session. And I'll show you that a little later in person when I set up the one that I'll do at the end of this presentation. It won't be part of this specific video, but I will show you the creation. I can show you the creation process on my computer here. And basically to do that, you just go to your homepage, whether it's your page or your business page. You go to create and you go to live, and then you go to schedule a live video, and it has a whole producer there that allows you to put a picture in and a header and schedule the time and the date. And I would really encourage people to do that, because then it sets it up for the future. There's also a direct link to Facebook Live videos for all Facebook accounts. So if you have a personal account, a business page, there's a link that's facebook.com/Miriam Churko, Ben Churko, Daniel Choi, or your business page, San Mateo County Homes for Sale /live, that will take buyers directly to your video section. And that's how they can view either your past videos or the videos that you may be doing currently. Another thing I've seen people do is email blast, you know, about their virtual open house, whether that's from Coldwell Banker, from your manager, from a different service like, you know, Zip My Flyer, things like that. That's another way you can promote your virtual open house.
I don't have it anymore.
Something I found very effective is texting family and friends about 30 minutes before. Because they're the ones that really are invested in you, and you know, they probably live in the community that you have listings in, or they're interested in your content. So I literally will go through my phone and just go through my recent texts and text my sister-in-law, text my wife, or you can tell your spouse or boyfriend or whoever, kids, about it. But your friends and family, the last like 20 people that you text, and just say, hey, I'm going to be doing this. You send them number 4 there, that live link. And then when they click into that, they can go to your live page and they can see the video. Also, HomeSpotter and Boost has been a super useful tool that I just discovered recently in the last few weeks. And they have specific marketing campaigns for Facebook and Instagram, and also the websites that they do ads on have been really great. So I would check that out. That's in Desk. You can talk to your marketing coordinator or your manager about that if you're not familiar. But again, I would really, really encourage people to look up HomeSpotter and Boost. I really think it's a great tool. So I'll let Daniel talk about landscape and portrait mode because I've been hogging this presentation. So Daniel.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, when doing a Facebook Live, one thing to note is that there is going to be landscape and also portrait views. And once you start in, for example, if you started in portrait mode, you cannot change the orientation after you've gone live already. So you do want to pick which way you want to record, whether it's in portrait or landscape. I think from when somebody's viewing your video from their computer or from their desktop or laptop, landscape tends to show better, so it's better viewing. But if somebody is viewing primarily just from their phone, portrait would look better. Our personal experience, we've done both. We do think that landscape would be the better way to go when doing a Facebook Live. And then I found out on Instagram Live, which is very similar to Facebook Live, you should only do portrait view, because I tried to film it in landscape and I was just sideways the whole time. So that's another note.
Which is, again, how I ended up sideways on that house in San Mateo the whole time, because I didn't realize that it wasn't in landscape, that it was in portrait, and I had my phone sideways, which is a landscape mode, but it was filming in portrait mode. So it literally was sideways the whole time. The only saving grace about that is that you can edit these, which we'll talk about in a minute. So you can actually flip the orientation, you can trim them. So usually the beginning of videos like this can be kind of long and you're setting up and things like that. So they can be edited, which is good to know. They can also be deleted. So they say things on the internet last forever. These videos actually don't. So if you don't like it, you can always just get rid of it and redo it. Another thing I'll talk about briefly is a script. I think scripts are super important. We always do about a 1-page script about the property. I have an example on the next page, but it just kind of talks about the important features of the home, kind of plan out in your mind how you want to do it. Do you want to start in your car, like a buyer would in an open house? Do you want to start in the backyard? Do you want to start in a common area if it's a cool condo? Daniel did that in Woodlake Community in San Mateo, where we actually started on the back patio and walked out the back and around the grounds because they're very pretty before we even went in the unit. And then another thing is have your seller review it. You know, it shows proactive that you're working hard and that you care about their opinion on the marketing. Sellers really like that. And when you're walking through the property, if you have your camera flipped around, no one can see you outside of maybe going in the bathroom. And that's always a good time to say, oh, I'd make a joke. Here's my script. You know, I'm not doing this off the cuff. Again, people appreciate authenticity. Scripts are very important. And then pre-write your headline for the Facebook Live, which we can show you a little later. But there is that when you get into it, right before you hit live, there is the headline. And it's a lot easier if you think about that before, so you're not like 1 minute too and trying to come up with the headline for your Facebook Live. The first time I did it at a property in Beaumont, we had, you know, I thought I knew it all, and I literally, it hit 1 o'clock when I was supposed to hit go, and I couldn't figure out how to how to do the Facebook Live. I had to call Daniel because he had done one about an hour before at a different property, and he said, oh yeah, you go into publish and you go to this. So just double check, you know, what you're doing, because even if you consider yourself tech savvy like like I do, you can get confused and flustered in the moment because you have a lot going on. So that's just one tip, is to pre-write the headline and just kind of make sure you go through the process. So this is kind of a sample script. It's only about half of it. But like this one in Belmont, I started in my car. I thought that was an interesting idea because I said, this is how most buyers start an open house. They start in their car on the street, and then they walk through the front yard, and then they walk through the home. They drive down the street, so you can pan down the street each way and go into the front yard. In the beginning, you kind of want to build momentum and let people see that what you're doing. So it's better to kind of not jump right into taping the property, kind of talk about the general market. That's the number one question everyone always asks: how's the real estate market? These are very unique times. So we have a very unique perspective as Coldwell Banker agents who get a lot of information from our, managers and higher up. So we're very lucky. Talk about local restaurants that are nearby. This property was in an industrial zone, and, that never bothered the seller, and that did bother some of the buyers. So we wanted to make a point, hey, sure, there's offices across the street, but they're very quiet at night and on the weekends. And that was something the seller really loved. Talking through, the seller had been there for 24 years. She raised her family there. And then you can kind of get into the general stuff you would, like price and beds, baths. Square footage is important to include those. But again, I think it's more authentic if you start talking about something else before you go into the house, rather than just saying, hey, this house is $1,248,000. Let's go look at it. And then again, kind of details about, your plan of walking through the house. Like you can go in the front yard, living room, kitchen details, bathroom details. Because when you're holding a phone and walking and trying to talk, it can be difficult to conceptualize all that. So again, no one can see you. If you have your phone flip around, you can literally just read off the script. And we found that very effective. So I'll let Daniel talk about the gimbal, because that's something that he turned me on to actually a long time ago.
Yeah, so a gimbal is just basically like an electronic stabilizer, which you mount your phone to. And so as you're walking around, it helps stabilize basically the video, and so you're not as bouncy in a sense. I don't know if Ben could play those two clips I literally just recorded before we jumped on here. So that top one is when I'm just holding it by hand and I'm walking through my condo, and you can see it's just a lot bouncier because it picks up all the movement from your hand and as you're walking. And then when you attach to the gimbal, it really helps smooth it out. So that just might be something you want to invest in. They're usually about $100 to $200 for a decent one, and that just helps make the quality of the video a lot better. And it also kind of adds a little bit more kind of range in a sense from your arm, and so it's not so close to just being in your face in a sense. So I thought that was very helpful. The very first one we did not have a gimbal, and then the following open houses that we did, we always used the gimbal, and it was definitely a big help and a big benefit to use.
And the gimbals can be difficult to balance. So if you have questions about that, Mary Daniel are happy to help, or, you can look up YouTube videos about it. So they can be a little tricky to use, but once you kind of get them down, they're pretty simple. Also, I've had a lot of issues with orientation. Again, we were talking about portrait versus landscape. That's actually, I thought I was so cool using my gimbal, and then I shot the whole video sideways because it was in the gimbal and it looked very smooth to me. So again, if you have questions about those, which ones we recommend, Daniel's cousin's actually a video editor in Texas and recommended a few because he uses them a lot for his shoots. I had one for 2 years and I used it. I bought it 2 years ago and I used it for the first time about a month ago. So again, just kind of in these times adapting to new things. It always sounds good, but now it's really the time to kind of break out and do some things. So personal versus business page. I mean, this is a little tricky. So do you want to film your, open houses on your business page or on your personal page? Generally, your personal page has more followers, so more people will see it. You can do it on either one. And it does store it once it's recorded to that specific page. So what that means is if you do it on your personal page, it's going to be in your videos for your personal page. If you do it on your business page, it's going to be in your videos for your business page. I find more value having it in your business page just because if you send potential clients to your business page, they're good. That content's going to be there. Those videos are going to be there. Most people that you recommend for Facebook aren't going to go to your personal page and go to videos. So we've tended to do the business page. With that said, you could do both. You can also do it on your business page and post it to your personal. Me and Daniel, I've been doing it on our business page. He's been doing it on his personal page because he has a lot more followers on his personal page. He has a lot of realtors that follow him. So we found that very useful because realistically, most people aren't going to be super interested in the walkthrough of a home, right? But realtors are. So if you do have a lot of friends that are realtors, or I'd recommend connecting with realtors on Facebook. So when we start seeing these virtual open houses be more prevalent, you can hop on, even if you didn't get a warning about it, you might see it as you're just kind of browsing Facebook. There is a link to each video, a specific link, which we'll talk about. And then again, as we talked about before, make sure that your page is set to public and not private, in particular your business page. That might be another reason to use a business page, because some people, have their personal page set to private for various reasons. But of course, if you have a business page, you want it to be open to the public. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but Daniel, would you agree?
Yeah, I do agree with that. Also, another note I want to mention that when you're using your personal page and you do go live, I believe all your friends, whoever you're friends with on Facebook, will get a notification that you are going live. So that just might be another way to get additional exposure, and in addition to, of course, letting people know directly.
So test out your network connection. This is really, really, really important. I can't emphasize this enough. I would really recommend going out the day before, doing a FaceTime, Zoom, Teams video, and walk through with your script and do the open house, because we personally run into issues with network connection where it freezes up, doesn't work very well. And if that's the case, then you need to kind of pivot and figure out something else. Another thing, we found 4G phone service has worked a lot better than Wi-Fi. Most properties are vacant, or they have been in the last month that we've shot, because those were the only ones we could get into. But you don't usually have access to private Wi-Fi in a house. And community Wi-Fi like Xfinity's open network is terrible. I used to be a network engineer, and the 4G going on to 5G, 5G is not causing coronavirus, in my opinion. Could be wrong. But the 4G is very, very powerful, and it reaches really, really far. So I would really recommend not using Wi-Fi unless you have to. I mean, some places you don't get phone service, so you may have to try and find a Wi-Fi service. But I can't emphasize how important this is, because if you go out there and do a Facebook Live and people can't see you for half of it because your network connection times out, it's just really not helpful. So syndication is key. So Facebook Live records each video and can be accessed with the individual link. For example, the one under number 2, if you click on that link, or if you went to that link, it would take you directly to one of our Facebook Live virtual open houses. And that's really powerful because you can post it to Facebook. You can put it in MLS as an additional virtual tour. MLS has eight places for virtual tours now. So you have your standard, your drone, your 3D, and then your secondary virtual tour. So we do 3D, we do drone, we do, extensive property websites. But then that fourth one's always like, well, what do I put there? I mean, I already have an aerial video, 3D. So you can put something like a Facebook Live open house where people can really start on the street and, maybe see the complex, or, just kind of get some more insight they don't really get. I love drone tours myself, the minute ones that certain companies do. And then also 3D Matterport, I've done for years. Very, very important to our business and I think to the real estate community. But there's nothing like having someone with knowledge of the area and the house walk through and point things out to you. There's really no other way to do it than to do some type of a video like this. So that's really, really been cool. You can email the link to buyers and agents. We had a property where we had 8 disclosure packets out, and I had done the virtual open house a few days before. So when I sent out my update saying, who's writing an offer, blah, 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 I sent that out to people so they could see it. And then as I talked about earlier, you can edit the Facebook Live videos, you can delete them, you can cut parts out, you can flip the videos around. So don't get so caught up in, oh my gosh, someone walked by in the middle of my video. I was doing one in downtown San Mateo last weekend, and a lady walked into my virtual open house and was standing in the living room when I came downstairs and told me that Compass's website had told them that there was an open house between 4 and 4:30. And, it's just, there's so much going on. I'm trying to read my script and talk about this crazy house that, was built in 1906. And then all of a sudden there's this lady in a mask is standing in the living room. It was just a little crazy. So, I didn't cut that out, but I could. I actually just cut that clip out and send it to some friends because I thought it was kind of funny. But be prepared for that as well. People aren't really, they don't know that open houses are banned. They're not so dialed into the community. So as we see MLS posting these virtual open houses and they get syndicated out to Zillow and Trulia and Redfin, some people might not realize that it's, not a live open house. You can also, squash all that by locking the front door, which I failed to do. So Zoom, we've used Zoom many times as well. I think Zoom's a great tool to do a virtual open house kind of in a more intimate setting. We've done that more with, buyers and sellers directly. The first few weekends we did do both. We did 30 minutes of a Zoom open house, and then we did 30 minutes of a Facebook Live open house, me and Daniel each. And the way we did that was we used Google Forms to register people. In all honesty, I think of the 6 Zoom open houses we did, we had only one time where people registered. And there was two buyers that had downloaded packets that registered. So again, you can send out something like a Zoom open house to buyers that have downloaded packets or shown interest or agents. Zoom, kind of like Teams, obviously, you can see the participants. It's better for small groups. It's not as good for redistribution because buyers, agents, and other people, aren't necessarily going to want their face blasted out there as a link on Zillow for a video. But we found it very effective. We did one last weekend in Redwood City where we had the seller walk through with her laptop and show some buyers the house because they live there. She's a nurse. We're just really uncomfortable having anyone go anywhere near that house. But it's a beautiful property. They've done so much work to it. And, it was really good for that buyer who wanted that specific area, to actually be able to see the whole house, see the garage, see the Peloton they had at the back of the garage and see the movie theater. They had like a 100-inch screen with a projector, and she was able to play the, Last Dance, Michael Jordan documentary, which I would highly recommend. It's very cool. I'm a bit partial because I'm a big sports guy and that was when I grew up, but that was a really unique thing that they could do where you could actually sit in their theater and watch a movie or watch, a documentary and kind of get the feel for what that was like. So Zoom, I think, has a ton of value, and obviously we're on Teams right now, so that's the same. Google Forms is free. It's very easy to use. It's part of, if you use Google Documents through your Google Gmail account, you just go in and you set it up, and then it creates a link, and it'll essentially let you send a link to people that will bring them to a page like this. So this is what we set up for Claremont. Join us Saturday, at this time, Daniel, Sunday at this time, Ben. And then people can go in and put their full name, their email, who they are, and then it gives you the responses here when people apply. So that has a ton of other applications in terms of the forms. But again, just kind of getting creative with all these technical different aspects. You know, there's just so many things out there that we always thought, well, we should really use that, but now we're forced to, and it's been very helpful. Teams, using Teams right now. I love Teams. Same attributes as Zoom. I feel like obviously they're kind of similar platforms. So yeah, and then Instagram Live. I've never done Instagram Live, so I'll let Daniel talk about Instagram Live. But again, it's just another thing. You know, he did a Zoom, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, all in about the course of an hour. So Daniel?
Yeah, so Instagram and Facebook are, well, pretty much one and the same. Facebook does own Instagram. So on Instagram Live, I feel like it's a little bit more casual, but you can still record a live video as well. The Instagram Live will also give out notifications to anybody you're friends with who's following you on Instagram. And that one does typically only stay up for 24 hours. I haven't quite delved into how to save a Instagram Live, but if you were to just share it to your story, it will only stay there for 24 hours. And this one, like I mentioned earlier, the orientation. So I found in Instagram, you can really do a portrait mode orientation, whereas if you try to film it in landscape, you're just going to be sideways the entire video. So best thing is just to record it if you're doing it from a mobile device in portrait mode, and that would give you the best results. There is also things like Instagram TV, which I think you can send out longer videos. Have not quite delved into that one yet. But yeah, Instagram Live works very similarly to how Facebook Live does. And it's just good to record, you know, the open houses, which have generally lasted about 15 minutes. I see a question here about the ideal length. We do think about 15 minutes is probably the most ideal. Anything less is probably not sufficient, and anything longer, you probably end up repeating yourself many times. So 15 minutes seems to be the good kind of sweet spot where you can do a proper walkthrough, show some of the details that, you know, a photo or a drone video may not have given. So, you know, things like maybe opening up some of the closets, you know, showing the inside of the fridge, showing the oven, you know, little details that may not necessarily come up on a Matterport.
Yeah, agreed. And going back to length, you know, it sounds like, oh, I'm going to do this for 30 minutes or an hour. It goes by very quick. I mean, most homes aren't that big. The first homes we did were 3-bed, 1-bath, about 1,000 square feet. And so we did walk through several times. One point I will make is that you do have people joining at different times. So it doesn't hurt to go back through the house again. You know, do your intro, you know, walk through the property slowly, talk about all the details of the home, and kind of go and focus on the nicest part. If it has a remodeled kitchen, a nice backyard, a beautiful fireplace, whatever it is, and kind of ask people if they have questions, maybe talk again a little more about the area, and then again, do another walkthrough depending on the size of the home. Like I said, we did the ones that were 1,000 square feet. The one I did last weekend was about 3,000 square feet on a huge lot. So that was a lot easier to kind of stretch the time out of only going through it once. But again, keep in mind, people are joining and dropping off and adding at different times. So not everyone from the minute you hit go is recording, and you can actually see who joins and who's asking questions. So it's very cool and very interactive. So this is, again, the scheduler that I would really recommend. And this just is one, you know, that I put together right before this, and I'll actually set it up. We're pretty much done. So I'll set this up so that I can actually do a quick Facebook Live. This is my backyard right here on the right. So I'll just start it from my backyard. We can kind of walk out. There's a little trail that runs along the ocean. I think you can see it, you know, it's Daly City, so fog comes in. But we can just do a real quick tutorial of just kind of how it looks walking through. That won't be part of this Teams video because it'll be on the Facebook Live portion. And I think Greg has a link. It's up here. But I will set a schedule as well, just to kind of show you that. So let me go in here. So again, this is our actual page in the web browser. I think you could do it from your phone. We always just do it from the browser. So literally, like I said in the slide, you go in to create, go to live. It'll take you into the live producer. And then you do schedule a live video. Come down here and say, when do you want to do it? So today we want to do it at, sure, we'll do it in 10 minutes, 2:45. What do you want to say? Let's say Ocean View walk. Join me for a quick Ocean View walk. Come over here. So you can select an image. Come back here, have this image on my desktop. Of course, you'll put an image of the home, that you have for marketing. Show on live tab. And then literally you of course it's not, you want to do it to the page. So of course I just did it earlier. So of course it won't work. See guys, a lot of growing pains with this stuff, but again, you just do it. Again, up here is where you can copy your live link that goes to your live page, which is basically this page right here. And this shows, Miriam Trick Group /live. This shows our past videos. And then once I get this scheduled, it will show, it'll show up there as well. So use only followers. All right, so I'll get this figured out. I don't know why it won't let me. There we go. So you have to select all those. So then schedule today for 2:49. It's in about 10 minutes. So then when we come back over here, we should see that upcoming live videos. So of course it doesn't have the picture, but it has the upcoming video at 2:49. So again, when people go to when you set it up, usually a day before, maybe two, you can send people just this link here. They can come in here and click get reminder. It will remind them of when it is. And then they can view it from this page, or they can view it from the home page of your either personal or business page. And again, this is the Google Doc here. So you can see here, it says, which would you plan to join? Are you a real estate agent? And that's for Zoom or Teams or even Facebook Live to have people register. If some people add passwords and things like that. So that's important. So I think that's it. We'll open it up for questions at this point.
If you guys could raise your hands, that would be great. Why don't we go to questions in the chat? I know you guys were answering them all along. Brian, you want to take over from here?
Yeah, so Daniel's actually done a pretty good job of going through and answering the questions as they've come up. So I would say let's turn it over to people raising their hands. So for those that don't know, if you hover your mouse towards the bottom of your screen, there'll be a menu and you'll see a little hand. Just click on the hand and that'll raise your hand. It'll allow us to call on people. So somebody had their hand up, but then they put it back down. So Janina, I guess you have a question. You can unmute yourself and ask the question to Ben and Daniel.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. Yes, so usually I try to do an open house to get new clients, new buyers. With a virtual open house, have you seen people come from the MLS and pick them up as new buyers as clients and show them the house personally?
We haven't yet, no. We've done about 4 of these, so, not a terribly large scale. So no, to answer your question, we haven't. I have had in doing the Zoom open houses, buyers make offers on homes who were part of that asked a lot of questions during the Zoom open house that I did on the house on Claremont. But no, we haven't scaled it yet. I mean, part of that is that we haven't really started marketing these videos, to be honest. I haven't gone out and boosted them, in Facebook and things of that nature. And Daniel hasn't either. But that would really be the way to kind of, build a following. The other thing is, like I said, most people don't really care as much about the house. So I would really encourage people to use it, as an information tool, like a live blog. I think that would be another way to pick up buyers and, to boost a post that way.
Yeah, because with the MLS, they've created a new entry where you can select the virtual open house tour, and so it will show the time and the date. And then on Zillow, they pick that up and they actually post the virtual tour online as well. So, okay, thank you.
Interesting.
So
yeah, I didn't know that they posted it to Zillow. That's really cool. Go ahead.
But there's still an issue with the big 3 right now, but they're working on it. But as a pro tip, I was on a webinar yesterday, a Zoom call, I guess. And one of the things they said was if you could, much like we posted your link in the chat, you could say, hey, if anybody wants to see this in person, because now we can show in person, right? Text me immediately and we'll schedule, so Daniel can be checking the chat. So you do a call to action and you can do giveaways and all this kind of stuff. We can go over that in class 2.
There you go.
Brian,
Liliana? Yeah, Liliana, you can unmute yourself. You have a question?
Thanks. Yeah, just a quick question on the process for scheduling. For scheduling, it looks like you actually have to go onto your laptop through Facebook that way, because when I went through my phone, it just takes you to live, ready to video, correct?
Yes, I believe the live producer is web-based that you need your laptop for. I agree.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, next, Paul. Paul, you have a question?
I do, yeah. I'm just wondering what you do when there's no one watching or when you have downtime. Like, how do you handle that time?
Well, that's most of the time. That's why it's important to have the script, right, Paul? Just so you come up with a plan of what you're going to do. It's more about the syndication for me at this point than, the immediate people watching. So if you come up with kind of your content of what you're going to say about the area, about the restaurants, about the walkability, about being near the train station, about the schools, about the shopping center, all those different things. Because you're really just talking to yourself. I mean, people are kind of looking at you like you're crazy. I did the one in Claremont on the front bench, and the neighbors are next door gardening. And I told them I was going to do it, but people are kind of walking by looking at you. But it's a good question, but it's really just you doing it for yourself. So again, having that kind of script and plan of what to do is really the most important part, in my opinion. Daniel, what's your thoughts on when people aren't watching necessarily?
Yeah, I could talk about, so basically when I did my first couple Instagram lives, for example, there literally was nobody watching. But I still went through and did my whole script, walked through the whole thing, because, it does stay on there for 24 hours on the Instagram live. And so, if maybe a friend saw it, at least they would be, it's kind of your own branding and marketing for yourself as well. In addition to having that information about the house. So don't be discouraged if nobody's watching. You just have to go through and give all the information about your house. Just be yourself. And then since it does get recorded, you can also think about, putting it on YouTube and have more content for your YouTube channel, for example. And so people can always go back and watch that. So not only do they get information about the house, you're kind of doing branding and marketing for yourself as well.
Great. So if anybody had any questions that were not answered, we do have a hand up. Let's see. Paul, you had another question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when it comes to storage, do you need to have a certain amount of storage like on your iPhone or Android? Is that a concern, or does it go straight to the cloud and is then kind of?
It goes straight to the cloud. You can save the video when you're done to your phone. So, it's usually pretty big files. So if you do have limited storage on your phone, I wouldn't do that. But yeah, it's all saved in Facebook's network in their cloud storage. So you don't have to store it anywhere. And then it's all link based. Again, when you get done, it says, do you want to save this to your phone? And I would recommend that if you have a big enough phone, because then you can just take that video file itself and upload it to things like YouTube directly. But yeah, no, you don't need any storage capacity. It's a good question.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Clara in the chat asked, besides the gimbal, do you recommend having a light and microphone?
I don't. So you can see behind me is my tripod. I just have always had a tripod because I've always had a camera. I don't think a microphone is necessary, especially with phones these days. The microphones are pretty good. We were on a chat yesterday with David Martin, who's an agent in our office. He's a big singer, church singer. He does weddings and funerals and things. He was noting that AirPods, a lot of musicians use AirPods for microphones because the technology is really great and it's right in your ear, so there's not a lot of distortion. So that was a really good tip, I thought, to use EarPods. Lights, yeah, I wouldn't really worry too much about lighting. In general, we haven't really come across that. But again, like the tripod, you can connect. I have the, gimbal. It just pops right off. It's connected on the bottom. So I can literally, when I'm doing my intro for a few minutes, I don't have to be holding this. I can be step back, set it up in front of a fireplace or the front of the house, and just kind of, there's no shaking or anything. And then I can just simply walk up, pop it off. There's a little screw portion. Most tripods have that for a camera. And then it just screws right into the bottom of your gimbal, and it makes it very easy. So again, EarPods I think are valuable, and tripods, but really the gimbal itself should be enough. You're on mute, Brian.
I try to be nice and mute it, and then I always forget to unmute. So the next question is, while doing the virtual open house live, do you have control over the participants in case they do crazy things?
You don't, no. Good question. We had a property, I won't say where, we're the one where the lady walked in on me, obviously that wasn't ideal. I was filming live. It's part of the video. The only thing I can say about that is you can delete it. It doesn't live forever. If something crazy happens, you can go in and delete the video, but with any live broadcast, that's just kind of a risk that you take. But good question for sure.
Next question, please repeat what you said earlier about why you prefer Facebook Live over Zoom.
I think that Daniel, you want to answer that?
I was going to say, I think Facebook Live is good if there's going to be, a little bit more than a few people, because people can watch and leave comments. Whereas sometimes if you have Zoom and you get too many people on there, you might have too many people trying to talk over each other while you're going through it. So I think there are going to be obviously pros and cons depending on how many people you might expect. So like Ben mentioned earlier, Zoom is probably better if it's going to be more intimate setting where it's like maybe 2 to 4 people. Whereas if you have a Facebook Live, you can accommodate more people jumping on, viewing, and putting their comments in live. And as they comment, you can see the comment come up on your screen, and that's when I try to answer them as I go. And then you can always, since it's saved, you can always go back afterwards and respond to questions, from your laptop.
I've seen a lot of people doing Zooms, not a lot, a few. And it gets a little hectic when you have a lot of people on it because they can talk. And I'm sure this can all be mitigated with newer features like mute all and things like that. I know Zoom has been noted for getting hacked into, which I think was more a function of the fact that they posted meeting IDs previously on screen, and people would take screenshots and post it on social media. And then other people would see that and then join the meeting from that meeting ID. So I don't think that's as much of an issue anymore is in terms of getting hacked. Someone said you can kick people off of Zoom. That's very interesting. But for us, I just feel like for exposure, Facebook Live is better than Zoom because it's going out to your family and friends and reiterating that you're in real estate and what you're doing. And again, it can be resyndicated. I'm sure you can record Zoom, but I don't know that I really want multiple people. I don't know that people are going to want their Zoom posted on Zillow, most likely. So that's just our thought on it. It's also easier to promote Facebook Live, in my opinion, because it's you don't need any software. More people have Facebook than Zoom, in my opinion. But again, we did both, for the first 3 that we did. So you can certainly do both.
Great, thanks guys. It looks like that is it for the questions. Greg, you want to wrap it up?
Sure, if you need me to. Hey, we really appreciate Ben and Daniel being here. Ben, I got to first meet you when you handled that person walking in on you over the weekend, and you did a fabulous job of dealing with that. And you weren't alone. I was on several virtual tours, and it happened to a number of other agents. So Daniel, Ben, fabulous job. Brian, thank you so much for recommending them. I think everybody is definitely impressed. I know some people are already asking, can we get the slide deck? So that's up to you guys, but this will live on because we did record it. So we'll get that out to participants. We're going to do more of these, so stay tuned. And we really appreciate everybody being here. Kelly Griggs, thank you as well, as she was instrumental in getting this off the ground. So we thank everybody and have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Greg. And I'll be going live in about a minute if anyone wants to join us on our live page to kind of see how it is. I won't take very much time, but I'll be doing that. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. I'll put that back in the chat one more time. Thanks, everybody.